There are certain times of the year when our stress levels peak, and Christmas is one of those times. So join me on the floor for a 17-minute stretching routine to help you relax. Hi everyone, and welcome to Exercise for Health. I'm Richard, and if you need to take some time out from your busy lifestyle or need to release some muscle tension, then this stretching routine will help. If you're new to this channel, we offer tips, advice and exercises each week to help you manage your health condition with physical activity. So go ahead and tap the subscribe button below and the bell icon if you want to be notified of when we upload a new video. So the 12 stretches in this video will focus on what I call the capital I of the body. This is stretching the muscles that act upon the shoulders, the spine and the hips. This will be suitable for most people, however you will need to be able to get down on the floor and also be comfortable kneeling. Do these stretches on a mat rather than on a very hard floor, and it will be useful if you have a chair or coffee table close to you that you can use for a couple of the stretches to rest your hands on. One of the back stretches may not be suitable for people with spondylolisthesis, spinal stenosis or degenerative disc disease, but I will let you know which one this is and provide an alternative. The best time to do these stretches would be later in the day, ideally in the evening before you go to bed, to help balance the autonomic nervous system so you feel more relaxed for a better quality sleep. Okay, with that being said, get yourself ready on the floor and let's go through them. Right, the first stretch we're going to do is to open up the shoulders, so we're getting the shoulder extension motion to stretch the muscles around the front of the shoulder and the top of the arms. So for this one, while you're sat on the floor, just have your feet in front of you, hands behind you with the fingers pointing straight backwards, and ideally you want your hands about a shoulder width wide. Keeping your arms straight, I just want you to slide your bottom forwards, so it's starting to open up the shoulder a little bit until you feel that stretch in the top of the arms and into the shoulders. And then just start to lift the chest up, like trying to push your belly button up towards your knees. And that will increase the stretch slightly. Hold it in that position. We're going to hold each stretch for about 20 to 30 seconds, but we don't need to hold the stretch completely still. So what we can do is we can start to oscillate a little bit, move the body around just to find any particular tight corners or tight spots. And you can hold it in that particular position. But try and relax your breathing, so slow, gentle breathing as we hold that stretch. Good, and then slowly come out of that one. Right, the next one we're going to do is we're going to horizontally abduct the shoulder this time to stretch the muscles across the chest. So for this one, this is where you're going to need your support. You're going to place your arm flat on your support, other hand on the floor while you're kneeling on the floor. And then from there, I'm going to drop the body down towards the floor, like I'm taking the chest straight down towards the floor, which is obviously bringing this arm up higher. I'm going to push that shoulder on that side that I'm stretching down towards the floor. So it's like I'm twisting away from it slightly. And that should create a stretch on the chest. And if you want to, you can just gently move the body backwards and forwards a little bit to find any tight spots while you're in that stretch. Again, relax the breathing. Should be doing diaphragmatic breathing, so deep breaths into the stomach. Let the stomach expand as you breathe in. Good, gently come out of that one. Let's switch over to do the same on the opposite arm. So, arm on your support, other hand on the floor, and then drop the chest down towards the floor, particularly pushing the shoulder on that side that you're stretching down. Twist away from it slightly if that helps. And then again, just mobilize around if you feel that you need to move and oscillate. Find a particular tight spot, and then you can hold it in that position for a bit. So again, focus on the breathing, make sure it's nice and relaxed. Come back out of that one. Good. Right, the next one we're going to do is we're doing shoulder flexion now to stretch the muscles on the side of the back. So for this one, I'm going to use the side of my armchair to place my hands on. I'm going to keep the hands quite close together, and then keeping the arms straight, I'm going to then start to pull myself backwards, dropping the bottom down towards the heels of my feet. So it's now flexing the shoulder, opening up so I can feel the stretch on the side of the shoulder. So once you get into that position, you can just oscillate the hips from left to right slightly, just a little bit. Feel the stretch on the side of the back. And again, as before, just relax the breathing. Good, then gently come out of that one. Right, the next one's similar, but it focuses more on the thoracic part of the spine and the top of the back. So we're going to get a little bit closer to your support, but this time bring your elbows upon it. So you've got your elbows about shoulder width wide. From there, I'm going to now drop the chest down towards the floor. So my knees are still directly under the hips, and I'm almost trying to create this dip in my back. So my bottom should be pushed up in the air. Obviously my head's up, but I'm trying to drop the rest of the spine down to get that curve. Now my mobility in my spine is pretty poor, so you might not see much of a bend, but for you it might be a little bit different. And oscillate around if you need to, just find a point that feels particularly tight. Good, and then come out of that one. Right, the next one we're going to do is to focus on the hip, and we're getting this hip abduction. So for this one, you want to try and take the knees out as wide as you can on the floor. Now that's obviously going to be dependent on your mobility of your hip joint, but try and take the knees out as wide as you can. You should have the two big toes touching each other behind you, and then from there you can just oscillate around. You can drop the hips back towards the heels of the feet. So it's just finding any tight spots. You can move from left to right a little bit if you want to. So this is known as the frog stretch. But just find those tight corners and relax the breathing again. Good, okay, come out of that one. So now we're going to extend the hip this time. So what I want to do is have one foot in front of the other, so a little bit like in a lunge position, with this back knee on the floor directly underneath the hip, which is under the shoulder. And first of all, I want you to try and tilt your pelvis backwards. So that basically means I'm tucking the tailbone of my spine underneath me, and by doing that, that might already then generate a stretch, so I can feel a little bit of a stretch here now. If not, what you might need to do is you might need to bend the front knee a little bit more to push the hips further forwards, still making sure you activate your glute muscles to keep that pelvis tilted, so you can create this stretch here on the front of the hip. Again, you might need to oscillate the hips, you might need to move them from left to right a little bit, move them around to find any particular tight spots. What you should find is throughout the stretch will begin to dissipate a little bit as you overcome the stretch reflex. So it will then relax and release that muscle tension. That's the idea. Okay, let's come out of that one. We'll switch over to do the same on the opposite side. So knee directly underneath the hip, tilt your pelvis backwards, which might already engage a stretch. And then gently, if you need to, just push the front knee a bit further forwards, pushing the hips forwards to create that stretch. Good. Right, come out of that one. So the next one we're going to do is we're going to go to a kneeling position and start on all fours, and we're going to try and flex the spine. So for this one, what I want you to do first of all is I want you to backward tilt the pelvis, just like we did with that hip extension stretch. So I'm creating that curve in the lower part of the back, and I'm going to hold that as I then drop the bottom back towards the heels of the feet. And that'll just start to open up the spine a little bit, and then you can start to then reach forwards with your hands along the floor, just so you generate a little bit of traction for the spine. And again, you can just mobilize the hips, move the pelvis from left to right a little bit if you need to, but just feel that stretch in the lower back. Good. Right, for the next one, this is the one if you've got any of those back conditions that I mentioned in the intro, this is the one that you won't do. So I'm going to show you the alternative for that first. So the alternative to this next one is going onto all fours. You're going to do the cat-cow, which is essentially trying to get that arch in the lower part of the back first, and then reverse it to go back the other way. And basically we're just going to hold each position for about 10 seconds. So that's if you've got one of those back conditions. I want you to do that particular exercise and not do this other one. For everybody else, you're going to lie down on your front, and I want you to bring your elbows underneath your shoulders, and then from there we're just going to gently start to push the arms into the floor to lift the chest and the shoulders up away from the floor until you can get this extension of the lumbar part of the spine. Now again, if some of you are got much more mobility than I've got, what you might be able to do is you might be able to do this on your hands. So you'll actually have the hands on the floor and you'll be pushing your hands up. But as long as you can keep the front of the hips on the floor, then that's fine. But you should feel a bit of a stretch. You feel it in the lower back. You might feel it a little bit in your abdominals as well. So you can oscillate around a little bit if you need to. Nice relaxed breathing. Good, and then relax. Just be careful you come back out of that one. Right, for the next one, we're going to be led on your front, and for this one, you're going to bring one knee up underneath you, because we're going to be stretching around the side of the hip, particularly the glutes this time. So I want to try and bring one knee up underneath you, with the other leg out straight behind, and then you're going to let your body just drop down towards that knee. And once you feel a little bit of a stretch, if you want to, you can just start to move your hips in the opposite direction. So if you're using your left leg underneath you like I am, I'm going to then push my hips over to the left, which is now bringing the knee underneath the right side of my body to further increase the stretch. Just be careful you don't tilt the pelvis on this one. So try and keep the pelvis square as you move it across. You should feel that around the side of the hip. Good. Come out of that one. Let's switch over to do the same on the other side. So right knee underneath. Drop the body down. And then from there, if you need to further increase the stretch, just move the hips over towards the side that you're stretching, trying to keep the pelvis square to the floor without tilting. Again, relax your breathing. You can oscillate around again if you need to. Good. Okay. Right, we're going to lie on our back now. So for this next one, we're going to try and stretch out the lower part of the back again. So for this one, while you're laid on your back, I want you to lift your feet up off the floor, grab hold of your shins, or if you want to, you can actually clasp your hands together if you find that more comfortable. But we're going to try and lift the bottom up off the floor to bend that lower part of the back. So it's obviously bringing the knees up towards the chest, but we're trying to get that curve of the spine. So you create like a saucer shape with your spine now on the floor. Just hold that position for a bit. Some people rock in this position, which is fine. If you want to rock forwards and backwards just a little bit, that's okay. Good. Gently let the bottom lower back down. Okay, now we're going to be rotating the spine. So for this one, we want the feet together and the knees together. Now I'm going to start off by dropping my knees to the right hand side. So before I do that, I'm just going to lift my bottom up off the floor and move it slightly a few inches to the left. And then from there, relaxing the head back on the floor, I'm now going to drop the knees over to the right hand side. Now as you do that, you might feel the opposite shoulder want to start to pop up. Again, depends on your mobility. So if it's doing that, then just use your right elbow, push that gently into the floor to push the left side back down onto the floor. So trying to keep the shoulder blades flat on the floor all the time while the knees are on that one side. So you'll feel that stretch anywhere around the side and the lower part of the back. So nice and relaxed with the breathing again. And then bring it back up to the middle. So we need to do the opposite side now. So again, shift the hips over to the right, because now I'm going to drop the knees over to the left. So as I drop the knees down, this side certainly feels a bit tighter for me, so I've got to make sure that I'm keeping the shoulder blades flat on the floor. So I'm going to use my left elbow just to gently push into the floor to help keep the shoulder blades flat. Relax the breathing. Always seem to forget that bit when we stretch, start to hold the breath. Good, and then lift that back up to the center, bring the hips back in, and slowly sit yourself up. So for the final one, we're going to stretch out the muscles on the back of the legs, the hamstrings, so we're going to be flexing the hip forwards. So we want to make sure we try and keep the knees as straight as we can for this one. Feet are about shoulder width wide, and you might find this easier to start off with. Put your hands behind you, just to the side of your bottom, and you can use that to kind of sit yourself up really tall. And by doing that, that might already engage a stretch on the muscles on the back of the legs. But if it doesn't, then you can just start to push yourself further forwards. Think like you're trying to get your belly button to go towards your knees, rather than trying to take your head down towards your knees. So even though flexing the spine's okay, we want to try and keep that neutral at the moment, just so I can focus purely on the hamstring muscles. And if you have got the flexibility to actually grab hold of your toes and pull yourself forwards that way, while you're trying to keep a good straight back, then you can do it that way as well. Good. And then gradually relax and come back out of the stretch. And you find you're back where you started again. Well done. I hope you feel chilled out after doing this routine, and you can do this every day if you want to improve your flexibility and posture. This will be my last video for this year, as I'll take a break over Christmas, but I will have some shorts videos being posted for the next 12 consecutive days, where you'll be presented with a fun mini Christmas challenge each day. So look out for those. Thank you for all your support this year, and I really appreciate your amazing comments on the videos. As always, give this video a like by clicking the thumbs up button below to help this channel out, and don't forget to stay active, keep moving, have a great Christmas, and I'll see you in 2022. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video today, please give it a thumbs up. You can also click here to subscribe to this channel, or click here to watch a recent video. See you soon.